Have you ever wondered what happened to the beloved cast of the classic TV show I Dream of Jeannie? Behind the dazzling lights of Hollywood lies a world of untold stories, tragedies, hardships, and mysteries that few have ever uncovered. In this special program, we take a deep dive into the real lives of the iconic actors who brought magic to our screens. They dedicated their youth and talent to creating unforgettable moments on television, but off-screen, fate was not always so kind. From devastating, incurable illnesses to tragic accidents, from once brilliant careers fading into obscurity to shocking, unsolved deaths, each story reveals a heartbreaking truth about these cherished stars. Join us on this emotional journey as we uncover hidden secrets, honor their legacy, and relive the unforgettable moments that made I Dream of Jeannie a timeless classic. You won't want to miss these revelations, some may even bring tears to your eyes. Larry Hagman, born on September 21, 1931, in Fort Worth, Texas, became a household name as the charming yet perpetually bewildered astronaut Major Anthony Nelson in I Dream of Jeannie. Raised in a fractured home, he was the son of Broadway superstar Mary Martin and attorney Benjamin Jackson Hagman. His mother's career often took precedence over family, leaving him to be primarily raised by his grandmother. This sense of abandonment followed him throughout his life, fueling both his ambition and his personal struggles. After I Dream of Jeannie, Hagman achieved even greater fame as the scheming oil tycoon J.R. Ewing in Dallas, 1978 to 1991, a role that made him one of television's most infamous villains. But off-screen, his life was riddled with self-destructive behavior. He was a heavy drinker for most of his career, consuming vast amounts of champagne daily, by his own admission, up to 4 bottles a day. His alcoholism led to severe health issues, culminating in a liver transplant in 1995 after he was diagnosed with cirrhosis and a life-threatening tumor. Even after his transplant, he struggled with health problems, and in 2011, he was diagnosed with stage 2 throat cancer. Despite his demons, he remained married to his wife, Swedish designer Maj Axelsson, for nearly 59 years. They had 2 children, Heidi and Preston, though his relationship with them was sometimes strained due to his erratic behavior. His later years were filled with a mix of professional resurgence, returning to Dallas in 2012, and declining health. He passed away on November 23, 2012, at the age of 81 due to complications from leukemia. Though he was beloved by fans, his life was a complex tale of success, addiction, and the lingering scars of a childhood spent searching for love and validation. Vinton Hayworth, born on June 4, 1906, in Washington, D.C., was destined for a life in show business. A cousin of the legendary Rita Hayworth, he carried a name that commanded attention, yet he never reached the cinematic heights of his famous relative. Instead, he found his niche in television, eventually taking over the role of General Winfield Schaefer in I Dream of Jeannie after Barton McLean's passing. His portrayal of Schaefer brought a comedic exasperation that made him a fitting successor to McLean's stern military presence. Though his professional life was steady, his personal life was not without hardship. He was married to actress Jean Owens, and together they had a family, but the demands of Hollywood often left him struggling to balance work and home life. By the time he landed I Dream of Jeannie, his health was already in decline. Hayworth was diagnosed with a severe heart condition, and his final days were fraught with suffering. He died on May 21, 1970, just weeks before his 64th birthday. His death, much like that of his predecessor McLean, left the show without one of its authoritative figures, marking the end of an era for I Dream of Jeannie. Though his name may not be as well remembered as others from his famous family, his work remains a testament to a career built on persistence, talent, and an unshakable dedication to his craft. Bill Daly, born on August 30, 1927, in Des Moines, Iowa, lit up television screens as Major Roger Healy, the fun-loving and mischievous sidekick in I Dream of Jeannie. His comedic timing and easygoing demeanor made him a fan favorite, but his real life was often far from the light-hearted humor he brought to his roles. Orphaned at a young age, Daly's early years were marked by instability and loneliness. He struggled to find direction, eventually turning to comedy and television as an escape from his troubled past. Though I Dream of Jeannie made him famous, his career never reached the same heights again. He found some success on the Bob Newhart show as the awkward neighbor Howard Borden, but he never landed a starring role of his own. His personal life was equally turbulent, he married 3 times, with each marriage ending in divorce. The most devastating blow came with the death of his adopted son, a loss that deeply affected him and contributed to his withdrawal from Hollywood in later years. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Daly never sought the spotlight and often avoided interviews and publicity. In his later years, he lived a quiet life in New Mexico, far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. He passed away on September 4, 2018, at the age of 91. His death was not immediately publicized, a stark contrast to the larger-than-life character he portrayed. Though his name may not have been as widely known as some of his co-stars, he left behind a legacy of laughter, a bittersweet reminder of a man who spent his life making others smile while privately battling his own personal sorrows. Born on October 5, 1922, in New York City, Woodrow Parfry was an actor whose face was more familiar than his name. A character actor of remarkable versatility, he made a lasting impression in I Dream of Jeannie as Henry Tracy, appearing in 4 episodes between 1965 and 1969. His career, however, stretched far beyond sitcoms. He was a staple in westerns, crime dramas, and even science fiction, with notable roles in Planet of the Apes, 1968, and Papillon, 1973. Parfry's early life was marked by hardship. He served in World War II and was a survivor of the Battle of the Bulge, an experience that left him both physically and emotionally scarred. He later turned to acting as an escape, finding his way into television and film. Despite his success, his career was largely defined by supporting roles, and he never quite broke into the leading man status he may have dreamed of. His personal life was relatively stable compared to many Hollywood actors. He was married and had a son, but financial struggles and the unpredictability of acting work kept stress ever present. In the early 1980s, Parfry suffered a severe heart attack that greatly weakened him. On July 29, 1984, at the age of 61, he died of a second, fatal heart attack. Though his passing didn't make major headlines, his legacy lived on through his many film and television roles, and his son, Adam Parfry, would later make a name for himself as a controversial publisher. Parfry's story is one of resilience. Though often overlooked, he was a performer who left a mark on Hollywood, even if it was in the background. Born on October 23, 1910, in Brooklyn, New York, William Henry Rourke, better known as Hayden Rourke, found his niche as the perpetually skeptical Dr. Alfred Bellows in I Dream of Jeannie. His performance as the bewildered NASA psychiatrist, constantly trying, and failing, to uncover the truth behind Major Nelson's bizarre antics, made him an essential part of the show's comedic formula. However, away from the cameras, Rourke lived a vastly different life, one filled with personal struggles and secrecy. Unlike his co-stars, Rourke was a deeply private man, and for good reason. During Hollywood's golden age, being openly gay was a professional death sentence. Though he never publicly acknowledged his sexuality, he spent much of his life in a committed relationship with actor Justice Addis, with whom he shared a home. The necessity of keeping this part of himself hidden undoubtedly added stress to his life, forcing him to navigate an industry that often demanded silence about personal identity. His career, though steady, never reached the leading man status he may have hoped for, relegating him mostly to character roles in films like Pillow Talk, 1959, and The Night Walker, 1964. As he aged, health problems plagued him, but he remained active in the industry until his final years. He passed away on August 19, 1987, at the age of 76, due to multiple myeloma. Despite his significant contributions to television, his death was largely overshadowed by Hollywood's ever-churning machine, and his name faded from public memory. Yet, for those who knew him, he was a kind, witty, and talented man who never got the full recognition he deserved. Benny Rubin, born on February 2, 1899, in Boston, Massachusetts, was a comedian and character actor whose career spanned vaudeville, radio, television, and film. In I Dream of Jeannie, he played the Arabian Reverend in 4 episodes, bringing a touch of his signature comedic flair to the role. But by the time he appeared on the show, he was already a veteran of the entertainment industry, having worked alongside legends like Jack Benny and George Burns in the early days of Hollywood. Rubin's career was one of longevity, but not necessarily of fame. He was a tireless performer, appearing in over 200 films and countless television shows, yet he never achieved lasting stardom. His personal life was equally difficult. His marriage ended in divorce, and he spent much of his later years struggling financially, despite his decades in the industry. As Hollywood evolved, many of his contemporaries faded from public memory, and Rubin was no exception. His final years were marked by declining health, though he continued working whenever he could. He passed away on July 15, 1986, at the age of 87 from natural causes. Though largely forgotten by mainstream audiences, his contributions to early American comedy and television remain significant, a reminder of a bygone era when vaudeville performers paved the way for modern entertainment. Born on November 1, 1928, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Emmeline Henry was best known as Amanda Bellows, the sharp-witted and socially ambitious wife of Dr. Bellows in I Dream of Jeannie. Although she appeared in only 35 episodes, her presence was unforgettable. She brought a sophistication and humor that made Amanda more than just a typical sitcom wife. But behind the elegant poise and polished performances, Henry's life was marked by disappointments, heartbreak, and an untimely end. Henry initially pursued a career in musical theater, showcasing a stunning singing voice, but Hollywood quickly typecast her in comedic television roles. She appeared in a string of sitcoms, including The Bob Newhart Show and Three's Company, but she never achieved the stardom she longed for. Her personal life was equally challenging. She was married, though little is known about her husband, and she had no children. Those who knew her spoke of a quiet loneliness beneath her glamorous exterior, as if she were constantly searching for something just beyond her reach. Her life was cut tragically short in 1979 when she was diagnosed with brain cancer. The illness progressed rapidly, and she passed away on October 8, 1979, at just 50 years old. Her death was a devastating loss to those who knew her, but in the entertainment world, it barely made headlines. Despite her talent, she was another actress whose light was dimmed too soon, lost in the shuffle of Hollywood's relentless pursuit of the next big star. Born on February 13, 1913, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Joseph V. Perry was a character actor who spent decades playing small but memorable roles across television and film. In I Dream of Jeannie, he appeared as a bartender in 4 episodes between 1967 and 1968, a minor role, but one that fit seamlessly into the show's lighthearted charm. However, like many character actors, Perry's career was defined by brief appearances rather than starring roles. He worked steadily, appearing in shows such as Columbo, Hill Street Blues, and LA Law, often cast as a tough guy figure, a mobster, or an everyday working man. Despite his steady work, Perry never achieved household name status, and little is publicly known about his personal life. He largely avoided the Hollywood spotlight outside of his acting gigs, keeping his relationships and family matters private. What is known is that he continued working well into his later years, refusing to retire even as his health began to decline. On February 23, 1993, just days after his 80th birthday, Perry passed away. Though the cause of death was never widely publicized, it was believed to be due to natural causes. His death, like his career, went largely unnoticed by the broader public, but for those who worked with him, he remained a dedicated and reliable performer who contributed to countless productions without ever demanding the limelight. Born on December 25, 1902, in Columbia, South Carolina, Barton McLean was a man whose tough exterior on screen mirrored much of his real life. As General Martin Peterson in I Dream of Jeannie, he portrayed a no-nonsense military officer, always on the verge of discovering Major Nelson's outlandish secrets. But long before he found his way into sitcom history, McLean was a staple of Hollywood's golden age, playing grizzled villains and hard-edged authority figures in films like The Maltese Falcon, 1941, and High Sierra, 1941. Despite his commanding presence in the industry, his personal life was less structured. He was married twice, first to actress Charlotte Winters, who stayed by his side until his death. However, his career often took precedence over his home life, and the pressures of Hollywood left him constantly chasing roles, even as his health deteriorated. McLean's final years were marked by illness, and in 1969, while still working on I Dream of Jeannie, he fell gravely ill. He passed away on January 1, 1969, at the age of 66 from pneumonia, a complication stemming from a long battle with cancer. His death occurred during the show's production, and his character was quietly written out. Though he had spent decades building a legacy as a character actor, he never truly escaped the shadow of typecasting, leaving behind a career filled with roles that often reflected the hard reality of his own struggles. Don Mitchell was born on March 17, 1943, in Houston, Texas, and though his I Dream of Jeannie role as a military sergeant was brief, appearing in just 3 episodes between 1965 and 1966, he would later go on to much greater recognition. His breakout role came as Mark Sanger, the young and determined assistant to Raymond Burr's character in Ironside, 1967 to 1975, a role that made him one of the few prominent black actors regularly appearing on primetime television during that era. Mitchell's professional life seemed promising, but his personal life was far more complicated. He was married twice. His first marriage, to actress Judy Pace, ended in divorce after years of reported turmoil. The couple had 2 daughters, including actress Julia Pace Mitchell, but his relationships were often strained. Despite his early success on Ironside, Mitchell struggled to find consistent roles afterward, appearing mostly in guest spots on TV shows throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Health issues plagued him later in life, and he largely withdrew from public appearances. He suffered from diabetes and other complications, which took a toll on his body. On December 8, 2013, he died at the age of 70 after a long period of illness. Though his name may not have been as well remembered as some of his contemporaries, he paved the way for future black actors in television and left behind a legacy that extended far beyond his limited appearances in I Dream of Jeannie. Born on August 23, 1931, in Tucson, Arizona, Barbara Eden became an icon of 1960s television thanks to her unforgettable role as Jeannie in I Dream of Jeannie. With her sparkling blue eyes, playful charm, and iconic harem costume, she captured the hearts of audiences and cemented herself as one of the most beloved actresses of her era. But while Jeannie lived a magical life inside her bottle, Eden's reality was far more complex, marked by triumphs, heartbreaks, and personal tragedies. Before landing her career-defining role, Eden worked steadily in Hollywood, appearing in films like Flaming Star, 1960, opposite Elvis Presley, and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, 1961. However, it was I Dream of Jeannie that made her a household name. Though she later found success in TV movies and guest roles, she was forever tied to Jeannie, struggling to escape the shadow of her most famous character. Eden's personal life was often filled with turmoil. She married actor Michael Ansara in 1958, and the couple seemed like a Hollywood dream, beautiful, successful, and happy. But behind closed doors, their relationship was strained, especially after the devastating loss of their son, Matthew Ansara, who died of a drug overdose in 2001. The grief weighed heavily on Eden, and her marriage to Ansara ended in divorce in 1974. She later married Charles Fiegert, but that union, too, was troubled, ending in divorce in 1982. Despite these personal losses, Eden has remained resilient, continuing to act, write, and make public appearances well into her 90s. She penned a memoir, Jeannie Out of the Bottle, in which she opened up about her struggles, including the pressures of Hollywood and the pain of losing her son. Today, she remains a beloved figure in pop culture, embracing her legacy while continuing to inspire fans with her strength and grace. Her life has had its share of ups and downs, but Barbara Eden's magic has never faded. What do you think about the deaths of the actors from I Dream of Jeannie, and who do you miss the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest videos.